So the first challenge I had is really building that network, and in finding those people whom eventually I thought would be, helpful in building my career. Right, that was the first one. The second one is really growing as a leader, right? So when we are scientists, there's a lot of passion and spirit in us to be driving that along, to be the first to get that publication, so on and so forth. So there's a certain level of, aggressiveness in which you pursue things. But when you grow as a leader, especially within a company, allowing people under you, so people who reported into you, have their time and space, being able to listen to them and serving as a mentor. So how to be a mentor, that is something that I learned along the way. When I used to receive feedback initially, I was very defensive. I was like, what do you mean? Like, I'm here all the time. Why couldn't you come and ask me if you had a question? Versus reaching out and saying, how can I help you? Do you have challenges? So really developing as a mentor and as a leader, it was a conscious change in how I approached problem solving, because I always have solutions that come up to my mind right away, but like being a little bit deliberate about sharing that, but allowing others to really come up and say things, and hearing them out and working with them collaboratively rather than saying I already know how to do things. That was something that was learned along the way as well. um, then the third thing is just, being aware of things happening around you, because I was very busy, in my home life. I also am, I teach Indian classical dance, so I have a parallel life. I'm a performer. I led a very busy life. So sometimes situations at work have blindsided me, things that I did not anticipate, because I wasn't always keeping my ears to the ground. I had too many things going on. So just that awareness of, and being sensitive to people's intentions. That's something that I had to learn along the way. They're post challenges. So quite a few things.
I'm sure. Um, oh, wow. So it's natural to evolve in a role. You started as a bench scientist, you said,
Absolutely.
now you're an administrator and you're upper level executive, so you have to have a different kind of
Much broader perspective.
perspective, exactly, of
Much
what's
broader
happening.
perspective, much more tolerant
Mhm.
of, where my gaps are. So I'm constantly looking to improve,
Yes.
right? And also having that patience to see where the gaps are in others and helping them along.
Yes.
So being that mentor, not just namesake, but acting as one.
So, what kind of advice would you give to your younger self? You could actually teleport an advice capsule back in time, say when you
Yeah.
were starting your career. What kind of advice would you give to your younger self to actually assure her that everything will be okay? Now you know, right? But
Right.
how about back then?
I would say one is patience, to be more patient with my own self and with people, because I had such a hunger and passion to succeed. I was not always, thinking through everything. So, and then keeping an open mind, not to assume things that this has to be this way or that way, but keeping an open mind and letting things evolve. So you don't have to solve problems immediately, right? There are certain things that you may have to solve immediately, but there are things that you can allow, certain data points to come in before you solve those issues. So I think patience is one thing that certainly helps in that, and also maturity, right? So you mentally mature as you go along and you learn from those experiences. So allowing yourself to learn from experiences is another thing that I would say.
That these are excellent pieces of advice.
And also keeping, that's one thing I always maintained: humor, right? Just having that sense of humor and taking things easy. So not taking yourself too seriously, right? I think it's
Yes.
very important to keep your sanity.
Yes. So, what kind of advice would you give to young women who start right now and look up to you and they say, I want to be Meena when I grow up?
I'll tell them you absolutely can get there. There is nothing magical about this. But what I would say is it does require hard work. So you should be prepared for it. So you should be prepared for the unexpected and be flexible enough to adapt. That's one thing I was very, very good at, which I didn't mention, is I'm extremely flexible. Even though I can be, very certain about what I want, but if I know that that's not going to happen, then I know how to pivot, right? So I'm very flexible in adapting to situations and taking things in my stride. So I don't let any, so I'm not afraid of anything. So I which has been ingrained into me, that you only have to be afraid of, if you fear itself. So if you're not afraid of things, if you're allowing yourself to try new things, and you're willing to take on challenges, which is what I've done all along. I've taken on roles of increasing responsibilities and scope, and I have succeeded in every level. So that's one thing I'll tell them, that you can absolutely do it. Don't let fear get in the way. Don't second guess yourself. Challenge yourself. Otherwise, you get bored, and if you're doing the same thing over and over again, at least my tendency is to get bored with it, right? So be prepared to take the challenge and ask for help. Don't be shy. If you don't know something, reach out. There are people around you who can help. It's only pride that gets in the way of asking for help. So shed that, and reach out for help.
Wonderful, wonderful pieces for all of us. I include myself in this. So I have a last question for you. And
Please.
This is something that you talked about just a little bit, but it's extremely important, especially in this stage and age, and has to do with work-life balance. We're not our job only. So how are you achieving it? You mentioned other kind of activities. You have a family.
Yes.
So how can you balance those things?
So the one thing is, of course, to be very organized and efficient in how you operate. So you have to be a clear thinker, right? And to some extent, being a decisive person helps as well, because I am pretty clear about what I cannot do, and I don't regret it. There are certain activities I wished I could have participated, but I know that my schedule does not allow it, and I don't keep any regrets. So I make a conscious decision about what I can or cannot do, and that has evolved, and it changes with what my commitments are. That's the first thing. So to be organized. And the second thing is, I've been very open about mentioning my priorities with my managers. And I have, so if I cannot stay back and do something, but I always make sure that I get it done. So how I get it done is less important, whether it's done on site or away from site. But when I get it done is more important. So I make sure that I get it done, no matter what. So that way I have made time for my passion in arts, performing arts, but I've also made time for my family and make sure that things get done, So it may not be perfect, but this is where you tend to accept imperfection as long as it doesn't result in harm, but you still, move along, and you're able to, balance all those needs.
Yes.
So, but, things have changed now, where we are able to work 24/7 thanks to the revolution in information technology, right? We are connected all the time, which is good and bad, right? But gives that flexibility, enormous amount of flexibility in how you can get work done.
Yes.
So,
Meena, thank you so much.
of
It's
course,
such
thank
a
you for
pleasure.
your time and for listening to me.